Welcome to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. This is Chris Miller. I invite you to join me as I interview artists from a variety of disciplines. We'll share powerful stories and lessons learned while making their art. Good day. This is Chris with the Spiritual Artist Podcast. I am very pleased with today's guest. I think she's going to raise your consciousness and your vibration today. Leigh-Ann Piano. She is an author, speaker, and sales and leadership coach who has been fine-tuning the performance of professionals nationally and internationally for more than 20 years. She has equipped thousands of individuals with forward-thinking, real-world tools that accelerate influence and impact change. I'm really excited about the energy that Leigh-Ann's going to bring us. She is a master facilitator and skilled developer of people. Her knowledge and expertise as a John Maxwell certified trainer and coach, coupled with her award-winning sales success in the telecom, software, and real estate industries, enable her to create fresh, innovative programs that speak directly to the needs of today's empowered professionals. And most importantly, Leigh-Ann is going to speak directly to you, the listener, about how you can empower yourself. So good day, Leigh-Ann. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me on. Super excited about our chat today, with it being, what is it, December already of 2022, and really gearing up and positioning for a much better 2023. And, that might be overall for some of us. It might be really specific areas that we want to just fine tune our performance personally and professionally. So it's great timing for this chat.
I thought so. It's that time. And this gives people time to think about it because, New Year's tends to be that time where you start, you kind of revamp, you kind of reset, right?
Yeah, right.
And so you're going to tell people, okay, here's some things you need to do before you do that, right?
Well, yeah, and this time of year gets super busy. So it's really important that maybe you take, just maybe a couple of hours or maybe a half day or maybe a day where you're doing kind of mindless things, you're relaxing at home, but really kind of thinking about intentionality, because that really is where it's at, right? What do I really want to accomplish? But then it's not just, well, I have this idea, I have this dream in my heart. But I always tell people that dream in your heart, you need to give it an action place to start, right? Because it's the execution that really trips us up or that we fall short. And then all of a sudden it's a year later and you go, oh my gosh, what did I accomplish? Why didn't I, right? Why didn't
right. It's interesting. I think I've struggled with that. There's a point where I sit there and I love the saying, let go, let God. But you also have to declare what you want first, right?
Yeah. Well, God is a God of order, right?
Yeah.
It's not a God of chaos. And even the Bible says, write the vision and make it plain. So we have to write some things down. We have to get a plan. God honors a plan, right? And if you don't have a plan, it's just a good intention. Right. So who was it? Eleanor Roosevelt said, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams, right? So all of us, I think, are wired with this creativity. It's like our imagination. We want to excel. We want to grow. I don't know too many people that just want to, kind of settle in life. But so many of us, I find, after doing, 1,000 seminars in the last 10 years and speaking to thousands of people, when I get to this part of maybe a workshop that I'm doing, I say, how many of you have a clear vision for your life? Maybe 10% of the room raises their hand. And I think, oh my gosh, we have to stop just getting on a hamster wheel and keep going and going and going, because that leads to a life of kind of dissatisfaction. And I truly believe that there are two great days in a person's life: the day you were born and the day you discover why, right? Mark Twain said that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's wonderful.
And so it's more than just going through the motions of life. It's building momentum and also the satisfaction. I mean, are you really satisfied with your life? And I'm not saying maybe you get 100%, but I think we can do a lot better. I think we can push it to about 85, maybe 90% if we're very intentional. So, I always start with vision. And if I could, I'd like to share the reasons why it's important to have a vision. Are you ready?
Sure. Go ahead.
All right. So there's 4 reasons to have a vision. Vision gets you moving forward with passion and purpose. So people that have a vision are always moving forward. It's great to reflect on the past, but I don't really talk to people and want to know too much about their past. I want to know, where are you now and where are you going? Because that's where you have the most control, right? We know things
Right.
happen in our past, but let's not dwell on that. Let's not spend a lot of time rehashing. Let's extract the wisdom and let's keep moving forward.
Mhm.
Make sense, right?
It does. It does.
Second reason to have a vision is it helps your dreams become bigger than your past. I ran into somebody in my hometown about a year ago. We went to high school together, and all she did was talk about high school, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it
I
was.
thought, wow, this is cool, but weird, right? A little cool and a little creepy at the same time, because I thought, I don't spend a lot of time dwelling on, the past. I was more interested to know, hey, what do you have going on now? What do you want for your future? What are you looking forward to? What do you, right?
Right. Right. Well,
Uh,
there's a lot of people that that's one of the funny things about social media, right? Sometimes you connect with people from the past, but they're in the past, right? And you're ready to move ahead.
yeah. So there was a little bit of a disconnect, although I was thankful that I got
Yeah.
to see her and she was doing, fine. But I thought, wow, I am such a different, just completely different person, right? So that's why it's important. Your dreams become bigger than your past. Also, here's the number one reason: it gives you clarity, right? When you have a vision, you have clarity because there's too much clutter on a daily basis. I don't know if you find this at times, but the world can be very cluttered, especially these days with everything going on, right?
Oh,
All our challenges. It's like post COVID, but is it really post COVID? Is it, we've been through a crucible. And so we have to get clear about what we want. I mean, really clear. Have you felt, Chris, that going through that experience, have you felt a little more clarity for yourself going through that?
through COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Still, and it's still, there's still fallout. Like
Yeah, there's still fallout, right?
I'm still seeing things. I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Let's
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
And I think clarity is also one of my favorite words. It's just such a wonderful word. And I think today we have so many distractions with our phone and media and everything. And so taking that time, like you just said,
Yeah.
to quiet yourself, right? And get calm and just think about things. Maybe do some task that's without the thought, like washing dishes or something.
Right.
Right?
Right,
Just
exactly. Yes. Or maybe sitting down and not immediately turning the clicker on, like the
yeah.
the the TV, or picking up your iPhone. I'm really guilty of it, but I have decided to leave my phone in the other room and just sit quietly for at least 5 or 10 minutes, just reflecting and just getting quiet. But isn't it funny how we just are so habitual now about, man, if you don't have that phone, you feel like, oh, I'm missing something. I have to check my email.
Oh, I
to check
know. And I tell my listeners all the time, don't pick up your phone first thing in the morning because
Oh,
it's pulling you from center. Like it's pulling you out into other people's commitments and what they want to achieve. You need to ground yourself, like you were saying, with clarity and know what your center is before all that message pulls you all over.
ensues, right? It's like that craziness. And what's really helped me in the morning too, with the clarity, since we're on this, is I do not turn on the news for at least the first 15 or 20 minutes. I spend some quiet time right before I get up and get going, just quiet time. And then I either listen to or watch something informational,
Yes,
motivational, or inspirational, right? So info, right? Inspiration or motivation.
definitely. I always have a book that I'm reading through,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
some-
You got to get that clarity about, and just getting clear about your day, not letting your day run you, but you kind of run your day, right? Getting some
exactly.
order immediately. So clarity is really big with a vision, and then vision gets you in the game of life and it keeps you there long term. Right? So I don't know about you, but I mean, I want to keep going and keep growing for my whole life. I don't want to just check out and just be, not enthusiastic about life anymore. So having that vision, you can have a vision at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. I had Uncle Charlie Piano out in Oregon. This is a great story.
Go ahead.
So,
I want to hear it.
My Uncle Charlie, this is great. All right. So he was unusual in that He had a zest for life, and he was about 90 years old, and he lived in this little bungalow behind his daughter in Bend, Oregon. And he would take like the 2-mile walk every day into town. He was a socializer. He connected with everybody. And he went to his daughter one day. This was so funny when she was telling us about this. And he said, hey, listen, I'm going to build a regulation bocce ball court.
How old was he?
90. He was 90. But he had the heart of like a 60 or 70-year-old, the doctor said, because he just kept in great shape, and he was, drank his red wine every night, whatever it was. And she said, okay, Dad, well, they're like 15 grand to put in this. He goes, that's okay. She goes, okay, it's your money. You want to do it? All right, great. So he put in this bocce ball court, and he walked the 2 miles into town every day, and he rallied people to his vision. He said, I want to have these tournaments every Saturday during the summers. She's like, okay. And he did. And he started these bocce ball tournaments, and every week people were coming, and it was growing and growing, growing. And after the first year, by the end of that summer, he had like 60 people show up every Saturday. So now they were cooking out, they were feeding people, they were having a blast. But, I think, wow, he made his vision a reality. They did that for 5 years. He became very ill at 95, and about a year later he passed. But look at that 5-year legacy he left, just from one idea, one vision that he made a reality. Look how many memories, right? He was 90.
That's amazing. It reminds me of that Field of Dreams, that if you build it, they will come kind of thing, right? Like he builds it, you have that vision, and you just know that people are going to respond to it, or energy will respond to it.
Yeah. And he knew his why. Right. He knew what he wanted to create. And it wasn't just about him. He wanted to create this legacy, this memory, and the enjoyment to give other people. Right. And like 60 people every Saturday were showing up, and they were all ages. I mean, they just really enjoyed it. So I think, wow, I'm so inspired by that story, that at 90,
I'm too. I think it's important to realize that there's no end to that creative expansion. Right. We like, oh, I'm 40. Oh, I'm 50. Oh, no, there's no end to that. You're constantly reimagining yourself. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Constantly.
And again, go back to your why. Why do you want to do this? Is it just for you, or let's kind of expand our intention to include others and make sure that you're leaving your mark, you're leaving a legacy. He parted with that mark in his last, in his 90s. That's incredible. So I love that. And I think people get old and grow old because maybe they don't have a vision anymore.
Right. I agree with you. I want to go back to something you said. I think it was one of the first points you said, but there are so many people walking around kind of in a fog, right? Mm-hmm. They get pulled left and right, yeah. And they're leading their lives, in quiet desperation. What is that term? They're not taking control. And so I love that we're having this talk right before New Year's, because I think it's for everybody to sit down and go, am I really directing my life, mm-hmm. or am I letting life direct me? Mm-hmm. And I think it's a two. I do think it's co-creating, obviously, right? We co-create, but you have to set your why, like you said. Decide what is my why? What is my reason for being?
What is it? What does that look like? Right. So you can have ideas in your heart. I always say you have to give that dream in your heart an action place to start. So I always encourage people when I'm doing either life coaching or sales coaching or leadership coaching, hey, let's write out a vision statement. Right. And that's kind of your guidance. You can put that up on your wall, or create a vision board, but I need to see that in writing. So if Chris, I asked you, hey, what's your vision? And you kind of describe it a little bit, but I'm like, let's really fine tune that and get very specific about that.
I actually have a statement, and I'll just give the first few words, but I reveal universal consciousness on a spiritual level. So, but I want to share with my listeners some trick that's really neat. When you do come up with your vision statement, you might like this too, Leanne.
Yeah.
I learned this for security. If you take the first letter of each word and use it as your password, think about it. Every time you enter your password.
Oh, that's great. I love that. That's reinforcement. My mind would never have come up with that, but I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
That's-
every time you have to log into your bank account, you are saying your why statement. You're saying your vision. I see my, and it's a great way to
It
remember it.
is. Do you mind if I steal that for
Yeah,
some?
let's steal it. And you know what else? It's secure because people
Yes.
can't figure that. It's
No,
not, it's,
no,
it's
they
a
would never
secure.
figure that out. Yeah, because it's personal. Say your vision statement again, Chris.
Well, I wanted to give a part of it because it's my password, but
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I reveal universal consciousness. Universal consciousness.
Reveal. Okay, so it's personal, it's
Mhm.
positive, and it's present tense, right?
Yes.
We're gonna trust everybody. You can change it anyway, right? I didn't know we were
Now
gonna get like security breach. Security breach.
Yeah, they don't know the end of it, but I do now. It's ingrained. Like you talk about neural pathways, it is ingrained.
Yeah. And so I love it. So there's the three P's when you're writing out a vision statement. So let's say you have that dream in your heart and now you want to sit down, you want to get it on paper. So it has to be personal, positive, present tense. And I'll share mine.
Okay.
All right. As a trainer.
Since you're not using it for password.
No. No, I couldn't even come up with that. That must be like a guy thing. I never would come up with that. All right. So I'm a trainer and coach who helps fine tune the performance of individuals nationally and internationally. Living my passion and purpose drives me to consistently pursue excellence, resulting in increased business and influential connections. My satisfaction comes from equipping individuals with the tools needed to blow the cap off their capacity personally and professionally.
Well, that's a long statement.
Yeah, it's a long statement. But again, it can be a paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends. That's personal, it's positive, and it's present tense. Now, why the three Ps? Because our subconscious mind is programmed by personal, positive, present tense. Not, I will pursue excellence. No, I pursue excellence. Okay. I will train. No. I train. I achieve. Right. I earn. All those things. And it was really cool that you have your vision statement in some form or fashion on your mind every single day, because what you're doing is you're practicing something called autogenic conditioning. Autogenic self-conditioning. So you write it, you speak it, you see it. Super
autogenic. Autogenic. I'm not familiar with that term. No.
Yeah, autogenic conditioning. A lot of athletes or like super successful business people practice autogenic conditioning. And you talked about those brain networks, right? So when you do that consistently, you're growing those new pathways in your brain. We're all neuroplasticians. And the really great thing that I have found is this process accelerates the manifestation. So all those things, you got to write it, you got to speak it, you got to see it, because now we're kicking into on a quantum level to the heart and mind connection. And this is recently discovered in quantum physics that they found out there's a heart-mind connection. So when you write it, speak it, see it, and you add emotion to it, okay, your brain and your heart are emitting a frequency into the atmosphere that permeates all space and time and brings to you that which harmonizes with that dominant thought. Super cool, right? So we have all this creative capacity, but not many people really tap into it and are consistent about it. You have to do this day in and day out, day in and day out. It's like taking your vitamins, right? Or brushing your teeth or taking a shower. This has got to become part of your routine. If you're serious about achieving those goals and those visions and those dreams that you have. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And I love the reference because a lot of people don't talk about that. And you really should be conscious of your emotions, right? When you say that statement, if you say, I will be rich. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you get, okay. I am rich.
Yeah.
And what would that feel like? Right?
Yes.
Like, what is that emotion that attaches to that? I am wealthy. Well, what does that really mean? Oh, to me, it means I have enough and plenty left over to help others. I mean, that's what I love to do, right? If I see a need, I want to be able to just write a check or go make sure that person gets that need satisfied. To me, that brings me a lot of joy. I'm a giver, so I like that. So part of my being wealthy is that it excites me in that I can help others and meet their needs.
So that's one of your whys, is helping others.
Definitely one of my whys in the area of wealth,
Mhm.
having more than enough.
Yeah. Were you always so um focused? I was just curious. I was curious, was there a point in your life where suddenly you had this dawning realization that, oh, I haven't been focused up until now. I was
Yeah.
just had
Yeah.
something
Yeah. So it was a breast cancer diagnosis in
oh,
2001. I wouldn't say that I've always been kind of a driven person, but I don't think I was as clear about my why. And when I was diagnosed, everything became clearer, because when you're faced with your own mortality, right?
mm,
Like, you may be checking out. They don't
yeah.
know yet. They got to scan your whole body. But that diagnosis it did several things. It was the great awakening for me in my life. It solidified my faith. It it changed the trajectory of my life. So I'll give you a great example of how vision really helped me heal. I was I was prescribed by the radiation guy of my treatment, the radiation oncologist, to go through 33 treatments of radiation. That's a lot of radiation. This was
Oh,
20 years ago, right? So every day that I would go in for my radiation, I would lie on that bed and I would close my eyes and I would get calm so the fear didn't overtake me. But one of the ways that I squelched the fear was to create a vision in my mind, a mental image of myself 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out, and what I wanted my life to look like and what I wanted to be doing. And I'm doing exactly right now, as we're sitting here today, I'm doing exactly what I pictured 20 years ago when I was enduring 33 treatments of radiation. And the really cool thing was, my radiation doctor said, "Your attitude is incredible." And I said, "Why isn't yours?"
good
And
point.
he just kind of looked at me and he said, "You people with these attitudes thrive. We don't know why."
Well, at least he admitted it, right?
Admitted it. He admitted,
Yes.
and most people have to stop treatment during this 33 because they're burning badly. I never had one burn, not one burn.
Did you do all 33?
I did
Gosh.
nonstop.
Oh my Lord.
So they were kind of a little bit amazed. Now, I'm not like I'm some special person. I just really focused my mind, right? Covered myself in prayer, focused my mind on the vision that I had for my life. There was no room for any fear or doubt that I wouldn't be here. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I love it. I mean,
Right?
you just held that vision
I held it. I
every
held it.
single time you went beneath the.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Put you in that. Yeah. So I know this stuff works because I've lived it. And I'm here, and I truly believe that doing some of these things help my healing process. And I don't say I'm a survivor. I say I'm an overcomer,
Yeah.
right? I overcame that. It doesn't define me. I wasn't a victim to it. I had to get the right mindset. And that's really huge. That's a big part of anything. Cause like you and I know, right? So you have this great vision. What do I do now? I have to become mentally strong if I'm going to accomplish my vision, because if your vision doesn't take you outside your comfort zone, it's not big enough.
Mm, I love that.
Got to
Well,
stretch you.
this is such a great conversation. I didn't even know this when we scheduled this interview, but I just featured an author who wrote Bouncing Forward, Michaela Haas, and she talks about going through trauma. And so how interesting that my
Mhm.
very next interview, and
Yeah, right.
you're talking about how it helped you define the importance of a vision.
Yeah, and it's all comes down to choice, right? Like, I had to make a decision on if I was going to be a victim to this breast cancer diagnosis, or I was going to position myself as an overcomer. So we always have that decision that we need to make in life. Am I a victim to this circumstance or event or situation, or am I an overcomer?
Mm.
And there's that it's like a really important moment where your mind decides, right? You decide, and then the mind goes in that direction. And then you don't entertain the other because you've made a firm decision about where you're going and who you are.
Well, I want to unpack that a little bit, because I love that.
Mhm.
You know, it makes me wonder. We are raised in a society that believes that our mind leads us,
Mhm.
but sometimes I wonder if that decision came from the consciousness of you,
Mhm.
and then it told your mind, which I think
Absolutely.
is a tool. I think a mind
Yes.
is a tool, and the mind felt follow suit, right?
Yeah, I think there's more of a, you're I happen to believe we're a spirit being, right?
Right.
The essence of who we really are, our spirit, that life force, right? God breathes life into us. And that spirit in me said, no, no, this is where we're going, right?
Mhm.
And so that's part of that faith journey, right? It really strengthened my faith. And mentally, I mean, when you're spiritually strong, your spirit is strong, you can be mentally strong. That
Mhm.
tenacity kicks in. I have a great story about tenacity. You want to
Okay.
hear it?
Yeah, let's hear it. I
Yes.
love it. I love this conversation because I
Yeah,
love when we get onto the conscious level. I call it
yeah,
the spiritual level. You know, we're on the spiritual level here, and how you use your mind and your body.
yeah,
But go ahead, tell me about this
yeah.
tenacity. I want
So
to.
whenever I feel like, oh man, like even in my business, I'm escalating, I'm expanding, I'm getting into some territory where I haven't been before. So there's always this natural kind of resistance, right? Because you're getting outside your comfort zone, you're trying new things, and there's days when you just want to go, hey, look, I'm just going to throw in the towel. It's so much easier just to just stay where you are. It's comfortable here. I'm cool. But then there's another side of you that says, yeah, but what's on the other side of that? Right? It's kind of that pioneering trailblazer. Let's go. All right. So whenever I'm feeling like I want to retreat, I think of the Brooklyn Bridge, and that's the reason it's behind me on my background. I chose it specifically because I love the story. So in 1867, a man by the name of John Roebling was a very famous engineer. And he had this vision to connect New York City to Brooklyn via a bridge. And all of his peers all over the world said, you can't do that. It just can't be done. Forget it. And he couldn't shake it. It was in his spirit. He knew that it could. So he recruited his up and coming engineer son who was graduating college. And he said, let's partner and let's do this thing. Miraculously, they got funding. They started the project 3 months into the program of the construction. John Roebling was killed on site. You have to remember, this is 1867 construction, right? They
Was he
didn't have
the father?
the father.
Oh,
His son was named Washington. And 3 years later, his son fell and he was badly injured. He had a brain injury that left him unable to walk, talk, or move, except he had the use of one finger.
oh,
So he created a code of communication by tapping on his wife's wrist. And for the next 11 years, he tapped out instructions to the crew to complete the construction of what you see behind me is the Brooklyn Bridge.
I have never heard that story.
Isn't it amazing?
It is amazing.
So when you feel like you want to throw in the towel or you're like, man, this is hard. I mean, I want you to remember the Brooklyn Bridge story and then say, I have all of my capacities. There is no excuse for me not achieving what I have in my heart to achieve. And that's my kick your own butt story, because we all need one, right?
Right. And even when you think about it, and he didn't have all of his capacities. I mean,
No,
right? He was down to a
finger.
finger. So it's that decision that you just said, that decision of what you want to create.
Yeah. And then not veering from that. I think there's a lot of opportunity for discouragement, distraction. And also, you have to remember this. I learned it the hard way. But when you get a vision and you start moving in that direction to achieve that vision, right? There's going to be a little bit of chaos. You're going to be stepping into a place where you're stretching. And remember that not everybody is going to be happy for you. because you're growing, because you're going further, because you're excited again about life. And if you have some, what I call some negative Nellies around you, right? Some
Yeah.
people that tend to they're just satisfied, right? Where they're at. Don't get moved by other people, especially if they talk you down or try to convince you it can't be done. Think about that Brooklyn Bridge. All of his peers, and these were engineer peers, told him it can't be done. But he knew in his what? In his spirit.
Yeah.
He said, no, it can be done, and I'm going to do it. Now, what a legacy he left for all of us. But can you imagine, the collaboration that needed to come from his wife?
Oh,
Think about
yeah.
her patience. And
But
that team had to believe in him and his father and that vision to follow that leader.
I want to go back to what you said about being careful about who you let into your vision. That's how I'm
Yeah.
going to say it, because you only want to let the best light into you want to surround yourself with people that have light, right?
Yeah. Or like-minded, right?
Yeah.
So, when I share my vision, I have a group of women, particularly, that they're tracking the same way. They're vision driven. I always say you have to be vision driven in your living, right? So they're vision driven. They have a vision for their life. They have clear cut goals. They know their why. They have made the decision that they are going to achieve this. And so there's no wavering. Does that make sense?
It does. When I went through the spiritual coaching sessions, they tell us that when you sometimes have a vision, sometimes don't tell people about it, because right, keep it to yourself, because they will try to straighten you out or get you on the road or tell you about real life, right?
No, that won't work but it's not their vision.
No, of course it won't work for them, right?
They don't have it. It's not theirs, right? It's not their little thing. It's not what's hardwired in them to achieve. It's like if somebody would have told me you're going to be speaking nationally and internationally, you're going to speak to thousands of people, you're going to be able to encourage and empower and equip. I mean, if you told me that prior to my breast cancer diagnosis, right? Maybe even 5 years before that, I would have said, oh, that's great. That's crazy. That's somebody else that you're talking about. That isn't me. But it was me and is me because it was inside of me.
Right.
And so that event ignited that spark in my spirit. And then things became a lot clearer. Now, I'm not saying that somebody has to have an event like that, right? But I'm saying at some point in your life, you may have an event that triggers you and changes the trajectory and makes things very clear about why you were born, right? What is your purpose?
Yeah. I love going back to that. And I want to say something that's probably a little weird, but I would encourage the listeners too. Sometimes even your significant other doesn't see your vision.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean they can't be your significant other. That just means that they can't be with you on that journey, if that makes sense.
And so you find like-minded people, and maybe it'll be, you don't have to have 20 people on your side. Maybe you just need one who really believes, right? And is going to encourage you. Super important for that. Super important. And then, you have your vision, you get mentally strong, you make your decision, and then you got to put action behind it. If you don't put the action, you won't get the traction.
So let me ask you this, because we talked about this, finding your why. What is there a secret to finding your why? How do people know their why?
I always say, identify your strengths, identify what your passion is. I always say to people, would you do this if you weren't getting paid for it? Would I do this if I wasn't getting paid for it? Yeah. And sometimes I do. Right. But it's really great when you know your strengths, your gifts, talents, and abilities. You've tied them to a calling that will pay you well, because I believe when you pursue excellence, you get better and better. It's your passion, that there's no reason why you won't attract the abundance to you, because you're meeting a need, you're serving others, right? You're excelling in your gifts, talents, and abilities. And it's all this beautiful picture where now you're in your flow of life. You're in your flow, your natural flow. It's not a struggle, right? You're not striving and just going through the rat race of life. It's like when people talk to me about that, I'm like, wow, I don't know. I love what I do. I love what I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think I talk about that in my book too, about being in the middle, because I think when you're connected to your why, it's an easy flow. You're going down, as Abraham Hicks would say, you're going downstream. You're going with the flow,
Yeah.
instead of pushing against. And something else you said though, sometimes you can get paid for something that's not your why. You know what I mean? Sometimes people will want to pay you for something, and it's your choice to say, you know what, I know I can make a lot of money doing this, but
Mhm.
that's not my why.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe you do, we're multifaceted, right?
Yeah.
But we're multifaceted. So, there's times when, hey, I'm doing this because I'm making a really good living, and I can weave this in, right? Because maybe it's a transition into that.
Right.
So it's not as black and white all the time as you have to choose either or.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not always either or. There's a lot of creative ways to make things happen in our world, especially today, right?
So I want to ask you another personal question.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So, you talk about speaking in front of groups, and that is definitely a creative act, because you're standing up in front of people and you're having a conversation with them. And in my book, I talk about getting in alignment with that inner voice.
Mhm.
you know how
Yeah.
do you do that? I mean, when you go and speak, do you ever stand up and suddenly you lose your voice or lose your confidence, or do you know how to get there? Do you know how to get into that space?
That's a great question for public speakers. I always get nervous right before I speak, and that to me is a good sign that I don't take for granted. I think what's really important for me, my process is I am very, very well prepared. So I don't just try to BS at all. I'm
Uh-huh.
very well prepared. I'm very passionate about what I do. But here was the big switch for me in terms of overcoming fear. When I first started speaking publicly, I was too consumed with me. Am I going to look right, sound right? Am I going to lose track? Am I going to, whatever? When I made the switch to focus on my participants, the audience, and how much value I can deliver to them, how excited I was to share this great information, then it became all about them and not about me. And that was the switch where I became less nervous because I was so excited to share this. And I connected a lot quicker with my audience. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I love it. I would tell the listeners that doesn't, you really have to be in the heart space with
Mhm.
that. With what you just said, you're in the heart space. You
Yeah.
can't sit there and go, I'm connecting because I want to sell them something, or I'm connecting because I want to make money from them, or I want them
Oh,
to even buy my book. You have to just feel for them.
yeah. I mean, you have to love people, right? You have to value people. To deliver value, you have to value people. So I get more excited about, did somebody get an aha moment? Are they going to walk away and apply something that could have either small or great impact in their
Right.
life, right? Because, I discovered my why, my purpose, my passion, and that's really to equip people, to empower people, to inspire people, to motivate them, all of those things, because I love to see people ignite their spark, their spirit in them, and just really go for it, right? Instead of just living in that safe hamster wheel kind of mediocre sort of
Right.
existence. And when you've got a diagnosis like cancer and you don't know if you're going to be, off the face of the earth and not being able to have impact anymore, it shakes you up in a really great way. Like you don't take things for granted anymore.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I agree with you. That's obviously your why. And I was telling a friend of mine just last night at dinner, I love painting. I'm an artist and I love to paint. And there's a wonderful feeling that I get when I do that. But when I stand in front of an audience and I speak and I
Mhm.
see that light bulb, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I see someone go, and they come up to me afterwards and say, you know what, that just shifted the way I'm thinking today.
Yes.
Or I love
I know. It's
that.
like, yes, this is why, right?
Right?
This is my why. This
It's
is
my
so
why.
rewarding and it's so fulfilling and it's very exciting. And I think that's the whole reason we're here, right?
Right.
It's not
Or
just
at least us. I mean, I think
us. Yeah. I mean,
somebody else might be to build a bridge, right? There's no better than, or it's just different, right?
yeah, it's just different. But even building a bridge, look at the legacy he left behind. It wasn't just about him accomplishing that. I mean, it was for people to enjoy for years and years and years and years. And whenever I tell that story, it's amazing because not many people know the history behind the Brooklyn Bridge. They've never heard that story. And that's why it was so, oh my gosh, it was so impactful for me. So it was one of those keepers. And when I share it, people are the same way. They're like, oh my gosh, I have no excuse.
I know, I know. But you don't have to lose all control of your body and be down to one finger, right? To
Oh,
set your vision.
no. But isn't it amazing how much we can accomplish? It's that human spirit, that willpower, when we are in a situation like that, just looking at that and going, wow, what willpower that man had, what strong belief in his father's vision. That's a legacy. That is something that will be remembered. So I get excited about that story. I'm glad you liked it.
I did. I liked it. It's a great story. So, and I think this is a great way for people. So I want you to go back to those. You said there were 3 or 4 steps to setting that vision. What was
Yep.
that?
So the reasons why you should have a vision or
Okay.
okay, so let's just review.
Yes. Chris needs a
Let's
review.
review.
He's having too much fun talking.
I know. I feel like we're in one of my workshops, but it's really important and it's a great time to do this. So 4 reasons to have a vision. Number 1, vision gets you moving forward with passion and purpose. Number 2, vision helps your dreams become bigger than your past. Number 3, vision gives you clarity. And vision, number 4, gets you in the game of life and it keeps you in the game of life. Remember Uncle Charlie's
Yeah.
story. And then when you're writing out your vision statement, it has to be personal, positive, present tense.
Okay. That's really important for people.
Present tense, super important. And then remember to autogenic conditioning. You got to write it, speak it, and see it. So I always say, close your eyes the first thing in the morning for maybe 3 minutes and right before you're ready to go to sleep and get that clear mental picture. And remember, right, we learned from quantum physics to attach the emotion to it, right? How does that vision make you feel? Super important so that you can begin to really attract to you everything that you need for that to become a realization, right? To manifest. So just remember those key things. Super important.
Definitely. I love that. And we talked about that before. I love that feeling part. Like if you're visualizing that you want, even if it's something very basic and material, like I want a car.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Visualize yourself in the car with the window down, driving down the street, the feeling
Yeah.
of the wind, right?
Yes.
All that's part of it.
Yeah. Can I tell you one more quick story?
Sure.
And then so I was doing seminars all over. I still do a lot of seminars, and I was in, I want to say Colorado, doing this seminar. And we got to this point of goal setting and things like this. And I had this woman in my class. She goes, oh, can I share my story? I said, yeah, sure. Her name was Susan. And she said, I am so excited because this stuff works. And I said, yes, I know it works. Tell us your story. And she said, okay, so I saved up $5,000 because I wanted to buy a 1986 purple Mustang white top convertible. So I put money in the bank. I had pictures of this convertible on my screensaver, on my bathroom mirror. She goes, I would just sit there and I would picture myself driving through the mountains with the top down. And she said, I could feel the wind. I was so excited. And she said, I had a 2-car garage. And she said, my second stall was empty. And I would go out there and stand and look at the second stall. And I would picture that purple Mustang white top convertible. Okay. So she's like 3 months into this process of she's seeing it, she's writing it down. She put money in the bank, so she was ready. She fully expected to have this car. So she said on a Saturday morning, I went out, I stopped at a yard sale. She said, I'm not a yard sale person, but it was a beautiful day. And I stopped. She goes, I'm wandering around. And she said, I was in the back of the house and then I came around the front, and what is sitting there sparkling in the sunlight was a 1986 purple Mustang convertible white top. And
That's crazy.
it was crazy. Imagine. She goes, I was frantic going through the people. Whose car is that? And this woman said, oh, it's my husband's car. And so they went over by it and she said, could I sit in the car? And the lady said, sure. And she said, you know, my husband had this car for a long time and we're going to be moving out back east and we're going to have to trailer the car. And she said, she wrote down all her contact info. She goes, please, this is the car I've been waiting for. I'm ready to buy it. We go home and tell your husband that you met me. Here's my contact information and see if he'll sell it. She goes, you know, it's funny you said that because my husband was just talking about he might want to sell this car. Okay. So the lady goes home, tells her husband, they call Susan, they meet her for pie and coffee. They talk about, you know, get to know each other. They haggle over the price a little bit. She writes a check. The couple delivers the car by like 5:30. And that evening she's driving through the mountains, just like the top down, the wind blowing. She pulls into the second stall of the garage. And she said, I did everything that you told me with absolute belief that it was going to happen and I would have that car. And she said, it's sitting in my garage. Isn't it a great story?
That's a great story, especially the description of that car is so specific, right?
But that's another thing. And I want to encourage people, get specific. Okay. When I was looking for my condo, I wanted a fireplace. I wanted underground parking. I wanted a blue spruce evergreen tree right out my window. And I wrote everything down. I have a blue spruce, beautiful evergreen right out my bedroom window that is huge. And I look at it every morning. You got to be specific about what you want. The more specific, the better. Got it?
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Super cool.
that's another whole step. I mean, you know, they have to write their statement, but then also they should just, like, I've heard of having I used to teach having an idea board, like,
Oh yeah.
you know, stick up all those ideas.
Yeah.
But
or a vision board. We call them a
vision board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't limit yourself and don't settle. Like make a decision and then just go for it. And don't overthink it. You know, I've got a couple friends. I'm like, you're overthinking everything. You're blocking that flow because you're trying to figure everything out. Don't try to figure out how it's going to happen. Just believe it is going to happen and prepare yourself. Right? This woman didn't know how this purple Mustang was going to come because she had been looking around. But guess what? She's just minding her own business at a yard sale and bam, it's right there.
You know, that's really interesting. Are you familiar with, let me hear, I actually have it here. Joe Dispenza. Have you ever read any of his work? Joe Dispenza?
No, but it probably sounds like something I would like.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And he takes a neuro kind of attitude with the mind and how you create things. But it goes back to what you just said. You just hold that vision. Mm-hmm. And so it's all science-based, but then he lightly touches that something, some spirit, some power of the universe will make it happen. And I think that's really interesting because he's all science, but then he lightly touches, there is a spiritual aspect to this.
Oh, you know, absolutely. You know, the Almighty has given us such creative power, right? I mean, you know, I'm a Christian, so, you know, I made in his image. He created, he's creative. And so we have that ability. We just need to tap into it. And I think many times, you know, just our world tries to just get us to settle or kind of, you know, just get in this on the hamster wheel of life. And, you know, or maybe you have somebody around it. Who do you think you are? Well, we're all gifted with this ability, and creativity is not tied to your IQ. Right. So all of us are creative, but sometimes it's like a muscle. You have to start working out in that area of creativity. And here's the other thing I want to say really quickly is don't try to make it happen. Okay. Just trust that it is going to happen. It's coming to you now, and prepare, do everything you can. Don't try to figure out how, and don't try to push it. Don't try to force that. Just receive it. Just expect it. And now it's so much easier, right? You gotta take it by faith. I have faith. I don't see it yet, but I'm taking that by faith. I believe it,
Well, you
right?
just said 4 things that are so great, but so I really like that, and I want to repeat that to the listeners. Creativity is not tied to IQ. What a wonderful thing to say,
Right, right.
because we like to think intelligent people are no. It's just it's a level of who we are, but it's not who we are, right?
Yeah.
Your intelligence is not part of the creative process.
Mm-mm. No,
That's a wonderful statement that you said.
no.
And then also going back to saying you have to surrender it. You kind of give it up to, and whatever you want to call it. I tend to, I really try to keep things open to all faiths and all
Yeah,
beliefs, but
absolutely.
whatever power you want to call it, if you want to call it Jesus Christ, if you want to, Muhammad, Buddha, you name it, but you have to give that creative power up a little bit. And you're right. Then just let it happen.
Well, think about it. If you force something, right, and you're trying to figure everything out, you're kind of a control freak about it, right? You just have to trust and believe. And now I'm more relaxed about it, right? I'm not blocking, I'm going with that flow of receiving. I'm just receiving it. I'm expecting it, and I'm ready for it. I'm prepared for it. It's that law of belief, right? Whatever you believe you are, you will experience, to the degree that you believe it or not.
Mm. Just keep winging them out there, Leanne. That's a great one too.
This is just such my passion, this area of helping people with their vision, really getting clear and really understanding that we have so much creative power within us, that you can really create that life that you want to experience. It's not beyond you. It really isn't. But we have to give ourselves permission. Then you kind of have to know a little bit about how this works, the conscious, subconscious mind, and that you really truly are a creative being. And there's not any limitations, only the ones that you have placed on yourself, or that someone has placed on you, and you have fallen victim to buying into that, right? You
Exactly.
believed it for some reason. And I just, I would love to see everybody just get set free from that.
I know. And when I go out and present or speak, I'll have certain people in the audience who, oh, I'm not creative. And I'm like, everybody is creative. You are
Yes,
creative by the fact that you are
are.
here, right?
Yes. And your imagination is the first place of creativity. You create it in your mind's eye. You create that image, and give yourself permission to do that, right? Just, I always say to people, you're probably thinking too small. Now I say I'm going to impact people globally, and we can do that now with the internet very
Oh,
easily,
yeah.
right? And so you have to change those limiting beliefs and not try to qualify them. Oh, well, I could if I was this, or I could have. No. We're going to focus on what you want, why you want it, and we're going to believe that it is going to happen, right? We're going to move in that direction. But let's go back to that, Chris, the decision. You have to be decisive about it. You can't wobble back and forth. One day I'm pursuing, the next day this. No. You'll never get it. So it has to be that tenacious pursuit with absolute belief, that tenacity, right? To get it done.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's sort of a discipline to it. There's a discipline
Right.
to holding that vision. Hold the vision, hold the vision, hold the vision, right?
Yeah, and then put the action behind it. Action brings traction, right?
Yeah.
Builds momentum. So there isn't this, you just live in la la land where you're in your mind all the time. No, what do I need to do practically to position to go ahead and achieve this? So, it's all part of it, right? But this is the first place. This is where it starts.
Well, I love this. I love everything, so much of what you've said. Is there anything that you wanted to share that we haven't covered that you'd like to include into this?
Yeah, one of the things that has really helped me, and I started doing this about a year ago, I learned about the daily reflection questions. And this is to slow us down and to pause enough so that we're not just achieving a goal, but we're growing, We got to make sure we're growing. We're not just achieving, but we're growing. So here are there's actually 5 I want to share with you. So the first one
Great.
is, what am I proud of today? Right? What am I proud of today? Great or small? Something I'm proud of. Number 2 is, where did I make the most progress? For my salespeople, it's like, hey, I made 20 cold calls instead of 10. Make sure it's measurable. Number 3, what did I learn? What was a little lesson? What was a nugget that I learned today? What be learning every day, every day. Number 4 is, what will I do differently tomorrow? Make sure that we're course correcting on a consistent basis. And then number 5 is, what am I grateful for? Wow, for me, every day I'm grateful that I'm here, right? That I'm healthy, that I'm able to add value to people on this planet. I mean, that's me. I'm just talking about me personally, but that's one of the things I'm grateful for and I don't take it for granted. So those are 5 good reflection questions to make sure that you are growing, make sure that you pause, make sure that you course correct, and you always stay grateful. You're in that mindset of gratitude.
Well, I love all of them. I definitely, and I think everybody can relate to, they've learned something in this call. So they already have that one knocked off the list.
Hey, good, yes.
But the grateful, I do believe that being grateful is what I would call it, like putting you in alignment with spirit.
Yeah.
And I, as I've gotten older, and I'm sure with your experience, you every day you sit there and go, oh, I'm so thankful for that blue spruce. I'm thankful for those, right?
Yeah.
And to say it, to say it.
Yes.
Even, oh, I'm so thankful for the leaf colors are so beautiful this year. I mean,
Yeah.
wow, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's great. Gratitude is such a portal to connection and keeping you where you need to be.
Yeah. And remember the brain networks, right? When we think toxic thoughts, it actually creates black holes in our brain networks.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Yeah. But the really cool thing is, when you just change what you think, you can fill in the black holes with new growth. When you think of love and forgiveness and gratitude, right? And passion, what your passion is, what your purpose is, when you build your self-esteem. So everybody has a story that they tell themselves. What is your story? And you better make sure that your story is the one that you want, not the one that you're just getting.
Yeah. We have the ability to change our story. We can rewrite it.
Yeah. And imagine having this new growth of brain networks. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah. We want to fill in those black holes with, no more negative thoughts, but the positive. And so that always helps me to be very conscious sometimes on a minute by minute, hour by hour basis on, hey, is this really the thought that I want to go ahead and nurture? And if it's not, let's dismiss that and replace it. And it's just that simple. Again, Chris, we go back to decision. It's making a decision. So super cool.
And I don't think you're ever to the point where those thoughts a negative thought doesn't try to come in, but you get better at spotting them, right? You get quicker.
Yeah, you get quicker, because I always ask myself, wait a minute, does this thought align with my vision of who I'm becoming? And if not, I just quickly dismiss it and I replace it. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, I love this interview, and I will put all your description into the bio. It'll be on Spotify and all the podcast networks. People can check it out. Yeah. I want to thank you for being on the show.
It was great, Chris. I love it. We probably go on, right? Yeah, we probably go on. But if I just want to say to people, listen, start somewhere, and if you're already tracking on this path, then maybe just fine tune a little bit. Maybe you challenge yourself to expand your vision. Maybe you go farther. Maybe some of you need to get more specific. Maybe you haven't been specific enough. Maybe some of you are being too control freakish in your vision. Maybe you just need to relax and just trust the timing. It will come in the right time, right? But and then make sure you're prepared for it. I always say, if you don't prepare for opportunity prepares for someone else.
Yeah, there's a whole trail.
So be ready, right? Yeah, be ready for it. So thank you.
I will ask you too, Leanne, if you want to send me those points, I'll make sure they're in the bio too, especially
absolutely, sure,
questions and all. That way people can refer to them if they didn't get a chance to write them down.
Yeah, especially those reflection questions. So
I love them. Yeah.
The pause. Yes. Well, gosh, our time together went by so quickly. I want to thank you again. This was awesome. And I'm excited about 2023. How about you?
I am too. I am too. And I love this because I think this is perfect timing to get my vision. I needed to hear this myself.
Yeah. 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 Me too. I'm going to take pen to paper and I'm going to go a little bigger on my vision. I'm not going to hold
Me
back.
too. I am too.
Good.
So,
Good.
well, thanks a lot. And I'm sure I'll have you back on the show.
Oh, I would
down the
love
road.
to. Yeah, it was awesome, Chris. Thanks so much.
Okay. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.